Good morning. Here I am again. I wanted to talk a little bit about the grief process. It's really early in the morning. I just got back from taking Kismet on a walk. It's finally, the weather is beautiful out here. I had a really bad week. First of all, I got a head cold, which kind of took me down. I didn't have body aches or sore throat or anything like that makes you feel so puny, but I just felt very fatigued, very congested, and my head just felt like it was going to pop off. So that took me down for a few days. And then I was scheduled to go horseback riding with my friend and her friends. That was just a couple days ago. We didn't even get out on the trail. We were out there early in the morning, didn't even get out on the trail before I fell off the horse. I fell off a horse, flat on my back, hurt my elbow. I have it covered up right now just because it's bruised and tender. Had some road rash on it for a few days. So it was constantly bleeding. So I had to have it wrapped in a bandage and then some gauze and then an ace bandage just to keep it all together so I wouldn't bleed all over my clothes or my pillows or whatever. Thought I was going to hurt a lot more than in the days following the fall, but I think that since I have this physical fitness background with dance and stuff like that, I knew what needed to get stretched. And I knew, so even just laying on my bed, I was stretching the muscles that were going to be sore. I just had this intuitive knowledge of which way to move. And it's just some pain reliever for sore muscles helped. I didn't really get that sore, although I do have a couple bruises on my backside here. I must have fallen on a couple of rocks. Banged my head pretty good, so my head's a little sore. Now, will I go horseback riding again? I don't know. They said get back on the horse. I get that, the whole metaphor of not being afraid and whatnot. But I also had to take in consideration I'm 60 years old. Do I really need to be falling off horses at this age? I don't have a stationary lifestyle. So if I did get hurt, well, who's going to help me with my trailer and help me move it if my leg or my arm is broken, and then getting in and out of it and all that other lifestyle stuff that I've got going on. So I'm having to rethink it. I don't know if horseback riding is a good option for me. Not that I'm afraid of the horse. I'm afraid of falling off the horse, which now I've done. And even though horseback riders always say, she says, you're no longer a horse riding virgin. You've fallen off a horse now officially. I feel like it's something stupid that I foolishly did at the age of 60. And it's not just a smart thing to do. So I'm rethinking it, whether I'm going to do the cattle drive in a few weeks. I think maybe a month away. But we'll see. I haven't fully made up my mind yet, because if I tell Renee that, she's going to think I'm ridiculous. I was told to get back on the horse. The horse needs to be worked and needs to put in its place, because if you don't work it like right after it tosses you, then it's going to think it can always toss you. And I'm like, I don't need that. I'm not that committed to it. Sorry, I'm not committed to hurting myself. I've already got scrapes and bruises and stuff like that. And I'm girly. I'm athletic, yes. When I was injured, I would just keep going. I was tough then. But now I realize it's like my body doesn't recover as quickly as it used to. And the soreness and the rite of passage stories are no longer worth it, because now it just makes you look foolish when you're at this age. So anyway. But then these all kind of prompted me having some quiet time in the trailer and more isolation and a lot of grief episodes. Yes, about my dad. Yes, about different family matters that are going on. I was beating myself up the other day. It was early morning. I'd been up. I'm having a hard time sleeping. And I know that's part of grief too. But I was up early in the morning and I was not feeling motivated. I still wasn't feeling great. I still had a lot of congestion. I want to be writing this novel, and I had been gung-ho last weekend for it, did a bunch of stuff, but then got sick and then fell off a horse. And then I even had a little trouble with the awning for my trailer. I had to have my friend and her caretaker from the ranch come out and bail me out. But the grief episodes, I was beating myself up the other morning and not really realizing, oh, wait a minute, that's right, you're out here grieving. You're not out here to do self-improvement right now. You're on a spiritual quest, but you're also grieving the loss of your dad. And I was simply just peeling an orange because I'm hungry. I have to eat, but I have no appetite. So an orange it's okay, I'm congested and I'm dehydrated, so the juicy fruit will be good. I need the vitamin C. It'll all be helpful. So I'm going to force myself to consume this orange. And I'm peeling it, and suddenly I just started to cry because I was missing my dad. What did the orange have to do with my dad? Nothing particular. I guess I was just, I don't know, at the moment recalling how he would peel an orange. I really don't know what And that's just it about grief. You really don't know what's going to trigger. And I've had several. I'm out here in this beautiful area. And although it's a campground, I'm still pretty, private. The spots we're not on top of each other, which is nice. You could definitely see the trailers and stuff over the shrubbery, but for the most part, you're left alone. And so I'm out here every morning. I see the sunset or sunrise, and every evening I see the sunset, without fail. Mostly because I'm up early, no matter what. And by sunset, it's great to bring the dog back out to play. So I've seen the sunrise and the sunset every day since I've been out here, and it's very calming and it's very peaceful. And I pray a lot. And yes, I cry a lot. And it's not all just my dad. It's really, have you ever just felt that your life got on this track? And even though you're trying to set goals and you have a vision for your future, it just still seems so far out of reach or even unattainable. Yeah. And that's what I'm grieving, is that the life that I had thought that I was going to have or how things were going to turn out isn't. And I'm grieving that too. Was I delusional? I don't know. Maybe I was looking at relationships differently than what they really were. But there's been a lot of self-awareness and a lot of prayerfulness. I got to get back into my getting closer to God spiritual practices and rituals. I'm pretty intuitive, and I've always had that intuitive nature to me, and I believe that it's a gift, like a knowing. I just know stuff. And a couple of years ago, I went out to Sedona, and I started experiencing the energy out there, picked up some crystals. And of course, in the Christian faith, these are supposed to be implements of the devil. And I don't necessarily believe that entirely. I believe that God put these minerals and these gemstones on the earth. What is it? I read somewhere that a third of the earth has these crystals. And I learned about quartz crystal. Quartz is what powers things. We used quartz to power the transmitter at the radio station. And we're made of all of these elements as well. So there's a purpose for them. And I don't worship them. I worship God, the creator. And because of him, I have reverence for the tools that he provided for us to refuel our energy, our body. It's like in heart math, we learn about the resonance of our dual field that comes out up and around and out of us. And we are transmitters and receivers as well. Water is a conduit or a conductor, and we're made mostly of water. And so anything that we can do to re-energize ourselves and get ourselves back into a balance, like even a pH balance with that pure heart, is things that we want to do or should be doing. I think we get caught up in the day-to-day life of trying to push forward, always be moving forward, that we're not spending as much time in the present. And that's been part of what I've been doing is with my grief, is just thinking future forward, what's going to happen next, rather than just love on my dog and sweep my floor and fix a meal and take a nap. Because grief comes at you really hard. And when you're sick and you're not feeling well, and it could have been that my immune system was down from all the stress of the previous months of my dad's decline. I didn't come back to home base with the intention of knowing my dad was going to die. I came back to home base because I wanted to check in with family, spend the summer there. I was giving up my office at Michelle's place, so I had to move out of my office. And it's just like the last few months have just been not what I expected at all. I thought my dad had more time. Until I saw him. When I saw him after a few months, I realized that he wasn't long for this world. I didn't expect it to happen as quickly as it did. And so now I'm just trying to sort things out. So the purpose of getting on this morning with this particular video is to give yourself time in the grief process. Thank goodness that because I'm a grief counselor, I have the tools at my disposal, and I know what I would be saying to my grieving client, and I need to have them. And so I'm just looking at myself in the mirror and giving myself that same counsel, that same advice. It takes time, and you need to take as much time as you need. And I don't want to be bleeding my grief all over people. So Lenee's not really seeing much of it. I just hole up in my trailer and have my grief bursts. And then she's very receptive when I say, hey, I need to get out of here for a while and go do something. And I let her know, it's like, hey, this happened, but I'm not expecting that she's going to let me cry on her shoulder. I have a therapist for that. But I'm missing my family, so I'm having to just use a lot of discernment and wisdom and prayer to navigate my way through the emotions that come with a family upheaval, and realizing that the human condition is that we all are alone out here. Um, our soul is on a journey, and this is just a vessel. And all these other people that are in your life, their souls are also on a journey. And sometimes our paths are going down the same way. And then there's times where we have to split apart for a while, and then we'll come back together. And I pray for them. I'm out here years. And because of the homeless climate, they have closed down all of the boondocking, BLM forestry type land close by. So where I was intending to go is no longer an option. It's closed indefinitely. It's such a beautiful place. And I was really counting on it. So now I'm like having to rethink. And I didn't want to spend money on campgrounds. I'm trying to save money. But if I can't find a decent place to stay at a boondock, I got to do that. So we went out exploring again yesterday. There was another spot that I can book here for 5 more nights. So I bought myself 5 more days to figure out where I'm going to go. I don't really have much of a plan. I had a plan to do Colorado and New Mexico in the fall or late summer. But then my dad died and just threw all of my plans off. And now I'm out here and I've still got this grief, and I just don't want to think this far ahead of where I'm going to go next. And so I'm feeling discombobulated and a little emotional, a lot emotional. And so I'm glad I bought those extra 5 days. Last resort, I can always go to Lenny's Ranch and stay there. And I may have to consider that. I don't know. I'm just trying to recover from a head cold, which is still hanging in there, lingering, and then falling off a horse and injuring myself. And what I'm going to do about that. And then when I got to move again. And it's a lot. But honestly, I wouldn't want it a different way right now. The idea of having a little apartment or a little home somewhere and my life is the same every day doesn't appeal to me right now. Be a little skeptical. Trust your gut. And that's what I'm doing. And so when I say, oh, if I had a home, I would have this, that, the other thing. No, I wouldn't. I don't want to go back to Temecula and start that whole life all over again. There's nothing there for me. I've already done it. I feel like I've been there, done it. I already did it. It's the same everywhere. It's the same kind of stuff everywhere. So if I'm going to do that again, I need to have a purpose to be there. I'm not really necessarily looking for a new job. I love what I do, and I really want to write my novels, but that might just be a hobby, writing books. I accept that, especially because I can't seem to get it going. Every time I get started on something, I get off the course. Sometimes I wonder if this book Dead Air is the one I'm supposed to be focused on. But yet on the other hand, I'm learning so much that I want to finish it. But now I'm a week behind. That's okay. I really wanted to just focus on the grief process because you have to give yourself time. It doesn't come when you expect it. And the waves of grief can turn into a tsunami. They can, and they might, and they will. But you have to just surrender to it and let it be what it is, even if it sets you back a day or two or a week, because all grief is a demonstration of the love that you had for what you lost. So the deeper you grieve, the more you've loved. How can that be bad? So if you're not grieving a loss of something, then you obviously didn't care that much about it. And that's okay too. But I cared a lot about my dad. And I cared a lot about my family. So grief is deep and wide for me. It's not that you're going to be okay. You just don't be in such a rush. It's not a race. Okay? It's not a race. We all end up in the same place. Anyway, we do. We're all here to fulfill a journey that our soul set out to do when we arrived here. And if you just continue to remember that, know that this is just the journey you signed on for. Your soul, your ego may not have, your human ego may not have signed on for this journey. but your soul did. And you've got to get the human ego and the soul aligned. And I've done that, and then it came apart, and now I'm working on trying to mend them back together again. The adventures of Kismet and Kelly do continue. I just don't know where to or what I'm doing yet, but that's part of the journey too.